name's Peter Kronreif. I play drums. I live in New York City. I am playing drums for the Bev Brothers for this Gene Harris Festival, but I'm playing a lot of different styles, usually from hip-hop, R&B, jazz to free improvised music. And whatever the music you play and whatever style you play and how you practice, you will always have to practice with a metronome. So the one constant in all of our endeavors and strives to get better musicians, become better musicians. The metronome is our steady companion. So I'm doing a masterclass about how I feel you get the most out of working with the metronome, and also to give you maybe new ideas of how to work with the metronome, make it more fun, make it more beneficial, and yeah, just also like, generally what you have to watch out for and keep in mind. So okay, let's dive right into it. So why I think working with a metronome is always great. The music, especially we play here, jazz, is a music that's based on pulse and rhythm, and so that is the utmost priority, I would say. I mean, Duke Ellington even said, never sacrifice the rhythm for the note. So, if you play the wrong note or you hit the wrong thing, but it's very much in time, it's not gonna bother anyone really so much as a wobbly time feel will bother. And since it's so important to have always this aspect in your practice, I think it's good to incorporate it, whatever you focus on in a way, to still always have a pulse there. So you always that becomes the normal for you, that there's a constant pulse and some groove happening, basically, even if you practice long notes. So when you do technical stuff, always play it in a groove. Don't speed it up or slow it down just like that. Never let go of the guardrails. That is the pulse. For example, Freddie Hubbard, some of you might know him, very famous trumpet player. I heard a practice tape of his, and he's practicing some lines, and the time, it's swinging. It's just him, and then you hear his wife calling. I think dinner is ready or something, and he's like, yeah, and then keeps playing, but you can't always keep the time never stopped for him. So you can always keep snapping while he's talking back, answering. So the music always keeps going if the time keeps going. So I feel like that's the reason for why having a metronome on and a time going. And so when you're practicing and you don't practice with other people, you can make the metronome your other party, basically your playing partner, so to speak, which means what you have to try if you play with your friends, you have to try to get together with them, get in the same groove, make them sound good in a way. So you can try to make the metronome sound good by being in the same groove, and really, when the metronome hits the click, it doesn't feel like, oh, it's disturbing you, so it's disturbing where you are. So if you're always conscious of that, and you feel like, oh, you incorporate into your sound the metronome, you kind of expect it, and it lands where you want it to land, then you're good. And it can make it more exciting. I feel like if you actually have a percussion player, if you think of it as a percussion player playing with you, of course, then you have to choose sounds that work with whatever you do. So if you do, depends which metronome you have. I use it's called Tempo app. You can see it here. Whoops, it's a little dark. The Tempo app Let me show you that real quick. Yeah, so you can choose which beats you're gonna play, which accents it's gonna do. So I mean, no things that you can't do with other metronomes, but I guess you all have smartphones, so I found this one to be a great metronome. Yeah, I like this because it gives you sound options, accents, different meters, and some other functions that I'm gonna get into a little later that I'm gonna show you that I think make this a great app. But you can also find that in other apps, I'm sure, or do the same things with a analog metronome. It's just like these things just make certain things easier, but it doesn't it's not important which kind of metronome you use. Okay, so that was basically the introduction about the general approach, I feel like, and why it is important to play a lot with a metronome. Okay, so let's dive right in to I feel like what's an important thing to do when you practice. Be conscious about things, and with the metronome, if you use it, be conscious about turning it on and being ready to play. So you treat it as if your bandmate is counting off, and you immediately have to hear the tempo and stay in the tempo, which is an important thing to be able to do on a bandstand or in rehearsal, to not have your own pulse overrule whatever the count off was, and go faster or slower right away, or as a drummer also, if you're counting it off yourself, just have the same pulse that you count off, go on, have that steady, because it's that is not easy, because you're in a different it feels different if you only count 1, 2, 3, 4, and also then if you play and you have to be aware of all your instrument and everything, then and then your focus might shift from, oh, how fast is this, to, oh, am I too loud, am I too soft, am I in the right spot? So to make that automatic, you just train that when you practice whatever you practice, by when you press start on the metronome, try to do it only 2 bars or 4 bars, count it off and play. So, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or, quicker, and you just 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's important, and then it's important to also set a sound that complements what you're playing. So now that I was playing a jazz thing, this is maybe a little too much, but if you play a straight ahead thing, if you choose a cowbell, it might feel more like you're playing with a percussionist than if you're playing with some annoying sound that's coming your way. So I feel like that makes a big difference. So let's try to change the sound here to a cowbell, and then go. fine sitting there, banging the cowbell. That's how. And if that feels like that, you're gonna have more fun grooving with it. So keep that in mind for like what style of music you play, which percussion instrument could be good with that. But of course, if you work with a regular metronome, you won't have these options. Just giving you ideas. Okay, so as the next thing I want to talk to you about is you realize that we just played and it plays in every beat, how that can become a little I would call it in your face, or it's just very it's like a referee that like is that close up to you and watches you every step, and then you can't really play, and you can't play a game if somebody is like in your face all the time. And what I found, what frees that up a lot is if you put the metronome only on certain beats, and fewer beats, or more beats, whichever. We can go through a few options, but not to have it only on the quarters, only on the downbeat all the time, because that's gonna take a lot of the fun away. So with that, again, you should think about, okay, what style of music am I playing? I'm playing a swing. I'm practicing a swing song, or like a passive thing, or like a etude that's swinging. Then I wanna probably have how does the music feel? It feels 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what you do in jazz. You kind of snip. The 2 and 4 is the important thing to feel. So you gotta put the metronome on 2 and 4, which you can either put it on 2 and 4 if you have it in 4/4. You just have it at a certain tempo, and you feel it in 2/4. See? So. To a more neutral sound for this. For me, when I play jazz, I like, you're gonna have your preferences, but I hear certain sounds as I don't hear the music. So I set it to 2 and 4 now. What is it for? 144 for the swing thing I did before. 46. So if you play that, it's very. Room. So now you take the 1 and 2 away, and you put it on 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And it feels way more swinging right away. So as I said, this is for the rock groove I played before. All quarter notes felt pretty good. That was not in the way, and it kind of made it feel, oh, that's the part of the music. So you can, if you do a Latin thing, for example, like Afro-Cuban thing, you might want to have, what actually often in the music happens is that you have a percussionist playing all 4 on the wood block. All the quarter notes are great for this stuff. So, be aware of that. And another thing to then also work on if you do the 2 and 4 for jazz, or the 4/4 beats, to sparse it out purposefully, to challenge your own inner pulse a little more. That means the referee is not there checking up on you every beat, but only every fourth beat, maybe, if you do it every fourth beat. You only have it on the 4. So you know, you're on your own for 3 beats, and then you're checking up with your friends, or with your percussion player on beat 4. So you have a little more responsibility like that. Let me do it real quick. Same tempo, and so if I press play, you only hear the 4. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. And the same with this too. Like, it's good if you put it on and try to play after 2 or 4 bars already. Can look at it. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. It's like a little more. You're kind of. It's a nice little surprise where you're always gonna be on it. But it's a lot more. You practice a lot deeper the sense of your pulse and the feeling of your pulse than if you have the metronome on all 4 beats. What I find, what a few students of mine told me. They said if they practice a lot with metronomes and it's always there, they're afraid when it's not there that they feel like alone when they play in a band and there's no metronome. So, and then you're like, worried. Oh, am I keeping the time? Am I rushing? Am I slowing down? Because your metronome that you always practice with isn't there. So, I mean, first of all, of course, on a bandstand you should never worry about these things, because on a bandstand you should just play and not worry. And I know that's easier said than done, but generally, like, there's no mistakes once you're on the bandstand. There's only music and no music. But I feel like if you simulate in the practice situation already that you don't have the constant help guiding you in every beat of the metronome, then you're a little more on your own as well here. And then if it's all gone, it's not as big of a difference, I feel. So we had the metronome just on 4. We can even sparse it out more. So now the tempo is 98, and I have it on 4. You can, of course, either make a 2-bar thing, or I just half the tempo, put it on 40, 98, 40, 49. Yeah, so 49 is half the tempo, and then you still leave it there, but so you keep the same tempo, but it's only on every 2 bars you're gonna have the 4. So now you have a whole bar by yourself, and then 3/4, and then on the 4 you're gonna have your check-in. So what are you gonna do? You can set the metronome on the half the tempo, which is 49, and then have it on 2 and 4, which is only the 4 of every bar. If you keep the double time in your head, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. One away, and you only have it every other bar. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. but just give it a try. Try work on that. You can even like sparse it out more if you feel like you can. But that's you're gonna benefit a lot. Your feeling of the beat is gonna benefit a lot from that. You can play just a groove and then try to improvise and and still hit the 4. So those are things, endless possibilities that may help you strengthen your pulse. So you can go the other direction too, and to sparse it out is one way to deal with getting a different feel. And you can also make it more dense, make it like a carpet of sounds, like a rug of beats that you can place your notes on and that you have to fit onto and like gel with. So with this app, and I'm sure other apps too, you can switch it to 16th notes. So we're still tempo 98, and let's go to tempo 100 just to be simpler. So tempo 100 and 16th notes with the same sound I had before would be. So that sounds more like a 1920 automatic rifle or something. So we don't want that. That's not groovy or inspiring. Anyway, so what I would probably pick is a shaker, and then do a 2 and 4 accent. You can do whatever you want to do, and then have that feel good. Does that make sense? I think that's definitely changes up the feel and changes up how it feels to play with. It's a little more fun. It's a little easier because it's always there. But it's also if you get off it, it immediately stops grooving. So for a beat where you leave space, that can be cool. But also even if you do something with actual 16th notes, if you have that going on, it's kind of it has to gel, like it has to kind of merge with your sound. And if it does that, it's gonna feel good, and you're gonna immediately feel, when you get off, it's flamming, or you're gonna hear a different sound, you're gonna hear different things about it. So even if you play like scales or something in 16th notes, and you wanna not have them wobble, and for drummers, if you're doing paradiddles or something, or like something with foot and hand techniques, 16th notes, try how it feels with 16th notes on running, and to smooth it out, gel every stroke with it. Try a little example. To not make that flam and feel every beat's kind of landing on the metronome, and together that is another challenge of like, it's more like a precision target challenge, but it's a different, you practice different things although you're still practicing with a metronome. So it can help in many ways. And lastly, what I touched on before earlier, to set it like maybe a percussion player would play, or somebody played. If you do it on 2 and 4, but you're not feeling it as 2 and 4. Okay, bear with me. So basically you have in your mind, you have to switch feeling something that's 2 strokes, bam, bam, 2 or 4, you switch it back and it's not. So for example, so it's 2 and 4 and, so 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, and, because you might play something that's on the downbeats, and a percussion player or the metronome can complement what you play, not play everything, play with you, but play off of you. So if I'm playing a backbeat on 2 and 4, so I know this is all rather drum specific, but I think if you give it a little thought, you can translate all these ideas easily to any instruments you're playing or anything you practice on different instruments. Of course, the guitar players, if you play a groove, I mean, just not let the metronome play what you play, but play against it. So have it in the gaps and make it feel good. So just as a simple example, I'm gonna do this with a tambourine that's not on 2 and 4, but 2 and 4 and. Okay. No. Still on the 16th notes. Let's go back to the single. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 3. You're kind of playing with the metronome, you're playing around together. I mean, now I improvised something, but also if you're doing an exercise, it just gives it a little different kick, you know. It gives you a different accent on a different time, place in time, and by that, you know, keeping it interesting, and you're easier. It's easy to remind you of, oh, it has to feel good when I play. It has to actually groove, and to me, it helps a lot if the beat is not always with me, but against me, and it still has to fit my groove and feel good. So yeah, keep that in mind as an option for setting a metronome. So I hope all these ideas I laid out are going to help you and inspire you to maybe practice a little different with the metronome. Those are for the basic use. I would say that those were kind of the things I would suggest doing, and that are going to definitely help you a lot in strengthening your pulse. Okay, for our next section, we're going to talk about speeding up certain things we practice. It's always important to find the right speed to practice things, and usually it is good to start slower, where you're actually really in charge of where you and how you play things, and then gradually work up to a tempo where it gets challenging, and stop where you can still play it and be somewhat challenged, but still able to do it. What I do with this app again, or I mean, you can do it with a timer and a regular metronome too. Set certain minutes that you are gonna stay on that first tempo, and you know, a little longer maybe than you think, to like really internalize the fingering of a line that's tricky and it gives you trouble. So with it, what you can do, like here, I can show you that real quick. You can set the automator basically by time, so it increases the tempo by time. So I can, or by meters. So I can do, now for demonstrating purposes, just gonna do 30 seconds. 30 seconds. every 30 seconds it goes up by 10 BPM. The good thing is now you can look at it and you see the seconds and the time when it goes up, and shortly before it's gonna jump, you're gonna stop playing and wait for the new tempo and let it basically, as we talked earlier, count off only once, one bar basically, and then get in the right tempo. Do the same piece or lick or thing you practiced in the same tempo and try to catch it right away. So 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna do my lick is gonna be like. Okay, let's start this again. So, this is gonna be like so 1, 2. So we're gonna start at 100 again and go up every 30 seconds and try to like be on it right away. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's gonna jump. When it jumps, I give it 1 bar. It's faster. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Usually we do longer, but now we do 30 seconds for demonstrating purposes. Jumped. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Pause. Now it's gonna start to get to a tempo where it's tricky. 1, on the 40. 1, 2, 3. That's it. 2, 1, 2, 3. And like that, you can gradually and patiently get up to a tempo where you are challenged again. But this is 30 seconds was an example. I would like go for longer, of course, until you feel comfortable, like 2 minutes or something, and then up only by 5 BPM, for example. And yeah, and that's how you get up on your speed, or for warm-up exercises. That is also great to apply it then. What is also a great way to actually improve playing a certain phrase or playing a certain challenging passage that you always seem to stumble over when you play it, to like take that out and loop it or practice it by setting the metronome slower every every 2 minutes, or like you can automate it, or like play the certain thing at the tempo where it feels good, then play it slower until it feels good in a slower tempo, play it slower and slower, and it might sound like it should get easier, but it doesn't necessarily get easier. So I'm gonna demonstrate that real quick. Just basically, let's start with a groove again, tempo 100, and for demonstrating purposes, I'm going to do 30 seconds and 10 ppm less. But you know, you should rather go maybe 10 ppm less, but play something until it feels comfortable, and then take it down, and still try to make it groove and make it smooth, and with a metronome in a good feel. Okay, so okay, let's start with 100, and 2, 3. Slow down, and it's not going to make it easier to not be in front of the metronome then, you know. So okay, I had still the increase in there, so okay, now it's going to decrease. This is 90. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same beat, 10 ppm down. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's hard to get into the groove right away. Okay, 70, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's do one more. 2, 3, 4. See, it gets very hard to not be bumpy and like pull and push. So I would also need to play this longer until it feels smooth again in the tempo, and I feel like, okay, not change the beats, change the tempo, but make it feel good. So what this does, and then you go down, you can go down to really obnoxiously slow tempos, and the benefit of this is one of my great teachers, Alex Deutsch, he explained it to me in a certain way. If you play something slower, it doesn't necessarily get easier because the parking space gets bigger, so it's harder to know where exactly the middle is, where you park it. If you just fit in 2 cars, there's only one way: either you're fitting it in or you're not. If the space gets bigger, it's like, okay, where does it really sit? Where's the nice middle of the parking spot? Where do I park the beat, park the note? And once you align these in a slower tempo, it's gonna be more smooth when you then speed it up again, because you know the spaces in between your hands, your fingers learn what the space actually is between this and that note. So when you then speed it up again and go back to the beginning, you're gonna feel that's the beginning, 100 again. You really have to try it. It feels so much more smooth. So like it kind of plays itself all of a sudden. What was before maybe an counterintuitive movement or feeling. Once you slowed it down and really like investigated like how it feels very slowly, and like use the put it on a microscope. That's what that basically does. If you slow it down, you put it on a microscope, you understand it better, and your body understands it. And when you then speed it up again, you will feel everything, all the bumps are smoothed out, and yeah, it's gonna feel better. It's gonna groove more. So that's something you should definitely try and do that. So the next thing I want to talk about is something I got inspired by through the findings or the work of Dr. Christine Carter. She's basically a professor at St. John's University in Canada. But she wrote about, her thesis is called, if you want to look it up, it's called Optimizing Music Learning, Exploring How Blocked and Interleaved Practice Schedules Affect Advanced Performance. So it's really interesting to read that. It's basically about changing up what you practice more often than you usually would. So if you have half an hour and you want to practice 3 things in this half hour, you want to practice scales, you want to practice long notes, and you want to practice a piece. Instead of doing 10 minutes each, you would do 5 minutes scales, 5 minutes long notes, 5 minutes piece, and then again 5 minutes scale, 5 minutes long note, 5 minute piece. So you touch on everything twice, but because you go in and out of it twice, the most uncomfortable you are is in the beginning of something. When you're sitting down and you're doing it, the first bar is going to be the hardest, because you're not in the groove, in the mindset. You're not. Your muscles are not don't have the memory yet of what you're practicing. So you basically always want to be in the uncomfortable state. This is a very brief summary, too brief for what her whole work is about. But in a nutshell, maybe that's how you could explain it. Now with the metronome, I feel like we can combine these ideas of practicing something in a certain tempo that feels good in a certain tempo, and practicing something else that where the focus is somewhere else but keeping the same tempo, and by that strengthening the pulse through whatever situation you're in playing. So let's go back to our tempo 100, and I'm going to play a very simple groove, playing the groove in the regular time, technical stuff, half time, technical stuff, double time groove, and technical stuff. As an example, just so you know what I mean, how that would sound like. 3, That's what I meant by this. I hope this was clear. That's something you can apply to whatever kinds of exercises. that you want to switch between, but keep the tempo. I would do that for longer. I would do that for like just 2 bars, but do it for a minute and a minute long notes with keeping the tempo, and then you go back to a technically challenging exercise. But not have that make the pulse feel different for you if the tempo stays the same. That's the ultimate goal, to have no matter how technically hard or easy it is what you do, if the tempo stays the same, you shouldn't feel like, oh, I want to go faster, I want to go slower because I'm playing faster notes. That will definitely help you get there, and then relax your inner pulse and have it be the thread that goes through. So all of this is basically trying to help you to get to a point where no matter if you play something very simple or something very hard, if the same tempo keeps going, you're not gonna rush anything, or you're not gonna drag on anything, just because it's technically trickier or easier, or because you play 16th notes or you play half notes. You're not gonna rush anything. Okay, and lastly, we're gonna do a little bit of advanced odd meter appliances of the metronome. I don't know if many of you have encountered odd meters, which we talk about if it's not in 4/4 or in 2/4, 3/4. Some don't consider odd meter. I feel like it's a little bit like an odd meter, but let's start with maybe in 5. You probably all know the take 5, that jazz standard. That's the basic pulse for how to feel a 5. It's like do get good day, don't do ba ba da don't ba ba do ba ba do ba ba do. 1 2 3 4 5. 1 2 3 4 5. 1 2 3 4. So you can put a metronome on 1 2 3. Like if you have an app, I'm sure you can put it to a 5/4 thing with a accent on the 1, 5/4 meter. Okay. Whoops. Sounds. Let's do a neutral sound again. And okay, we'll stay with 100. 1 2 3 4 5. 1 2 3 So you don't need to have a metronome on 5. You can have a 5/4 bar. If you have a downbeat, you can have any bar, any number of beats in between. In between 2 points, you can make 5. You can chop it up in 5 parts. You can chop it up in 4 parts. You can chop it up in 722 parts. So we're gonna just set it on a downbeat, and that's it's a good exercise for you to also try to feel other things than 8th notes and triplets, but to feel like quintuplets or feel like other amounts of beats. So yeah, let's try it with this. So the tempo is on 100 still, and then just a 1 of a 4/4 bar, but we're gonna try to feel that as a 5/4 in between. So those are always the downbeats. But instead of 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, we're gonna try to 1 2 3 4 5. 1 2 3 4 5. 1 2 3 4 5. 1 2 3 4 5. And then you can do, if you practice anything in an odd meter, with any odd meter, it gets harder, of course, if you're doing it. I mean, let's just try it, do the same. the same beat, but have it a 7/4 bar, which is becoming more common in modern jazz. So you might encounter it 7/4. So if you practice in 7, you don't need the metronome in 7. You can have one beat and have the one of every bar. So that goes for all odd meters basically. So the next step for that would be if you have it always on the 1, and you can divide it in 5 or 7 or like also 3. That means every bar has a middle though, so you can divide every bar in the middle. With a 2/4 bar, with a 4/4 bar, the middle would be beat 3. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. In a 3/4 bar, the middle of the bar doesn't land on a beat. It lands in between beat 2 and beat 3. So you have one dotted quarter note, then it's the middle of the bar, another dotted quarter note, and then you're in the next one again. So you can set your metronome on whatever the tempo. Let's keep the same tempo, and have that become the middle of a 3/4 bar. So the end of 2. It takes a while sometimes to find that, but once you have it, it's also a good practice to like find a pulse, a different pulse for the same beat, for the same space of the beat. So now we do, to make it easier, we start with like the downbeat and the middle of the bar. So 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. That is the middle of the 3/4 bar. 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So that works in a 3/4. It also works in a 5/4 bar and a 7/4 bar, and that gets very tricky though. But you know, we're already in it, so I'm just gonna demonstrate it real quick, and maybe you'll be in a situation where you're gonna actually have to practice odd meters, and then that's another way to approach feeling it and basically strengthen your inner pulse. All these things, searching for the beat and like searching to get it in a different spot in the bar while you play, it's all catering towards, it's all basically training your inner pulse and all training your understanding of the beat and then your flexibility with it. And that can only benefit everything that you play, in my view. So in 5 that would be quintuplet. 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Seven. Let's do 7. So just we have it all. Sorry, I didn't mention. So in the 7 4 bar, the middle of the bar is and the between beat 4 and 5. So it's not quite like math, because in math 3.5 and 3.5 is 7, but we start at 0, and in the music in the bar we start at beat 1. So that's why the middle is always a little, it's not intuitive where the middle of the bar is, unless you think about it for a second. So it's the middle, it's between 4 and 5 is the middle of the bar of a 7/4 bar. So we want to have a 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7. I'm trying to find that. 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7. 2, 4, and 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7. So yeah, that's a great way to practice odd meters, and to practice strengthening your own pulse in an odd meter, to stay with it, but also have the freedom to explore in between without being overly over-regulated or over-checked upon. Like that same metaphor, you can go back to where you have a referee in your face all the time while playing sports, which is no fun. And that's it for the odd meter part. I hope I gave you some ideas. I hope that you can find some of these things benefit. And I know this is probably very challenging for most of you, but never anything wrong with a challenge. You can push yourself a little more, and then the reward is even better and even quicker, maybe. So. Okay, this is concludes basically my masterclass about using a metronome. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some ideas. You got some. You're gonna find some ways to apply this to your practice. I just feel like having a pulse in anything we practice is always gonna be beneficial, and finding different ways is fun. It's gonna change it up. And you're gonna see the benefits very soon if you keep at it and always have the pulse going. You're gonna benefit a lot, and music is gonna be more fun and rewarding to you. All right, take care.